Hello, thank you for joining us this evening and welcome to Mollie's News Hour, where you get news that makes the news. To get into tonight's dirty details, first we're going to talk about a story of a fixed football game. The story was run by the Saturday Evening Post. That's right, the Saturday Evening Post. And now there's a lawsuit over it. Coach Wally Butts, I know I laughed too, the football coach for UGA Bulldogs is suing the Saturday Evening Post for a story they printed about him throwing the football game. Yes, the source for the Evening Post claims he heard an alleged phone conversation between Coach Wally Butts and Coach Bear Bryant of Alabama, where Coach Wally was indeed giving Bear Bryant plays and defensive strategies of the Bulldogs so that Alabama could win the game. There's quite a debate going on whether it's true or not. Now, you know, Georgia and Alabama, they're backing their coaches. There's also a separate lawsuit going on with Coach Bear Bryant, but we're here to talk about Butts. Man, I cracked myself up. I love this job. You know, stuff like that, you can't write that. You just can't. Anyways, on with the story. I had the pleasure of interviewing Coach Wally Butts along with the PR executive, Miss Ida Leibel. But it's Miss Ida Leibel. She's the public relations executive for Curtis Publishing Company. And then, you know, Coach Wally Butts, the UGA coach. So let's go to the tape, see the interviews. Coach Wally Butts, how are you doing?
I'm just fine, ma'am, and how are you?
Oh, I'm great. Thanks for joining us. All right, well, sorry, no offense intended. Let's get into this. So you're suing the Saturday Evening Post, is that correct?
That is correct.
And what I understand is it's over an alleged phone conversation between you and Coach Bear Bryant of Alabama.
That is correct.
Now, why are you suing the Post if they're just printing what they were told? Why aren't you suing the source?
Well, first of all, the Saturday Evening Post didn't do what it was supposed to do. They didn't do their job, and that was to do their fact-checking and to get our side of the story. No one talked to me. No one called Bear to get his side of the story. They just went off and printed whatever they wanted to.
Okay, I see. So you're saying that none of it's true, that it's all a lie.
That is correct, ma'am.
And would Coach Bryant back you on that? Would he agree with that?
Absolutely, 100%.
Sworn under oath?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. All right, Coach Butts, was there anything else you'd like to add before the conclusion of our interview?
Yes, ma'am, I would. That Saturday Evening Post acted with wanton and reckless indifference.
And just for the audience's sake, I know what that means. Legal terms are a specialty of mine. Can you explain that in layman's terms?
Well, ma'am, in layman's terms, that means that the publication acted recklessly and did not do their job by fact-checking before they published.
Very good. Very good. Well, thank you very much for joining us. It's been very
a pleasure, ma'am.
It's been a pleasure.
Go Bulldogs.
Miss Ida Leibel, it's Leibel. Oh, I'm sorry, I was going to comment on what a coincidence that last name is, considering the circumstances, of course. Excuse me, Miss Leibel, you're the public relations executive for the Saturday Evening Post. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
Let's get right into it. The fact is, your company is being sued for printing an article without really checking your facts. Is that correct?
We printed a story that was given to us by a great source, and it was
let me stop right
there.
When you say great source, is your definition of great someone who is...
It was a first-hand witness, so that's a pretty great source.
Right, but he's a noted criminal.
That information has not been made public.
Okay, well, according to this signed affidavit, it states that your company knew that he had criminal charges still on his record at the time that he came to you, and you consider that a
Ma'am,
credible
our
source?
source is not on trial here. It is the coach of the Georgia football who threw his game and was disloyal to his fans.
No, I think you're misunderstanding. You're on trial here. The coach is suing you, so it's your company. That's besides the point. Everyone already knows that. Basically, the phone conversation went down that your source was accidentally tapped into a phone conversation between Coach Wally Butts of the Georgia Bulldogs and then the coach of Alabama, Coach Bear Bryant. Is that correct?
That's correct. Our source picked up the phone and happened to hear an incriminating conversation, and he did the right thing by reporting it to us.
Okay, but I also saw in the affidavit he got $5,000 from your company for reporting that. Is that
well, we don't just send our sources away with a pat on the back. We
Not
have
to mention,
reward them for their
he
efforts.
also came to you almost 5 months after the football game had been won. The game was played in September. He allegedly heard the conversation 9 days before the game was played, but he didn't come to you until January or February of 1963. Is that correct?
Well, if you know football in the South, you know that it's a big deal, and people don't just forget about losses like 35-0.
Right. No, that's true, but I'm wondering why he didn't want to make a big deal about it before the game.
Perhaps you'd like to interview him, ma'am.
Well, he's not on trial, is he? Okay, next question. Let's talk about, now on the phone conversation, according to your source, what your company printed, Coach Bryant said, and I quote, "What do you got for me, Wally?" Is that correct? And then Coach Butts continued with exact game plays, defensive strategies. He also included specific foot patterns his quarterback would present to let the other team know what play was coming next. So Alabama was ready for these plays.
Clearly, Alabama had the advantage.
All right. Well, I'm just not understanding how you're okay with this lawsuit. You seem so calm, but I feel like it's quite obvious, especially in this town, that your company's already lost.
Our company reported the facts, reported the truth, and honesty is our policy.
Well, in this case, I don't think so. You ran with the story, which you stated earlier, without doing any background checking. You didn't interview either coaches. You didn't look at football plays. You didn't look at any of the notes of
Our
the coach.
fans appreciated it, and we sold papers out of it.
Right, so you're in it to make money, not be honest.
Aren't we all here?
Miss Libel, I just want to remind you, you're so calm and collected, but your writer, who was backed by your editor, so essentially your publishing company backed this story, and you're still backing it when the evidence is clear that your writer is not a sports writer, did no investigation, didn't interview either coach, had no relationship with the coaches, didn't look at any football footage, didn't look at any of the plays that were set before the alleged conversation. He had no evidence whatsoever that Alabama won solely on the reason that this phone conversation happened and Georgia did indeed give all of their plays.
I don't have to deal with this. I'm not on trial here. This interview's over. Thank you, ma'am.
Well, you heard the facts. Will Coach Butts win the lawsuit, or is Curtis Publishing Company really that innocent? It's been a great evening. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next month for Mollie's News. News that makes the news. Goodbye, everyone.